Hey you guys, welcome back to See Mindy Mom. I'm Mindy. Tonight I'm going to continue with a little series that I've started on this channel. It is all about WW friendly meals that are also family friendly, and tonight I am making Italian beef and rice skillet, so stay tuned. All right, you guys, this is actually a relatively new recipe to us, but I knew the first time I made it a while back that it was gonna be a regular for us. It's in our regular recipe repertoire because everybody liked it. In fact, there were no leftovers. These recipes that I'm sharing in this series are particularly recipes that I have found to be big hits with my family and that also work for me. I'm working the MyWW plan, specifically the purple plan. What I want to accomplish with this series is, number one, you can work any of the MyWW plans and not have to cook two meals, one for you and one for your family. And number two, you can cook meals that use just regular real food. You don't have to make a bunch of substitutions or anything like that. So the recipes that I'm sharing are things that my husband likes, that I like, that my 10-year-old, 7-year-old, 6-year-old like and eat, and that I think use just kind of regular, ordinary ingredients. The recipe that I'm making today, the way that I'm making it with the ingredients that I'm using, it comes out to 3 smart points on purple when it serves 6 smart points on blue when it serves 6, and 7 smart points on green when it serves 6. So let's talk about the ingredients real quick. So first off, this recipe calls for a pound of ground beef. I'm sure you could use other kinds of ground meat if you wanted to use ground chicken or ground turkey. I am using a pound of 85-15 grass-fed ground beef. And here's a little tip for you on WW. Be careful how you track your meats and your recipes when you build them, especially ground meats. I track mine as how much it comes out to once it has cooked. And I find that with this meat at this fat percentage, 1 pound, usually I end up with about 10 ounces of cooked ground beef once I drain it and after it renders water and fat. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, sometimes people will not drain it because they want the fat that is rendered from the meat in the recipe. And so if that were the case, you would want to go ahead and track it, what the points would be when it was raw before you cooked it. But most of us like to drain the fat off. I'm not worried about the flavor of the meat. It's a higher fat content ground beef anyway. It's not super lean, so it's still going to retain some of that fat and some of that flavor from it. But I do go ahead and drain off the excess fat that it renders while it's cooking. So I went ahead and measured out 1 pound of ground beef. I made sure that it was just 1 pound raw, and I'm going to test this out and make sure that it comes out to around 10 to 11 ounces. And here's the difference. A pound of raw 85-15 ground beef is 29 points. 10 ounces of cooked 85-15 ground beef is 19 points, okay? So spread out across the recipe that way, it definitely saves you, some points. Other ingredients in this, it calls for some diced onion. I usually half the amount of onion that recipes call for because I think it's kind of a lot. A can of Italian diced tomatoes. I'm just using regular diced tomatoes. 1.5 cups of frozen mixed veggies. It calls for peas and carrots. Mine also have corn in them. And by the way, that's why it goes up a point on the green plan as opposed to the blue plan, because corn and peas are not 0 points on green and they are on blue. 3/4 cup of uncooked white rice, but I am using 3/4 cup of this brown basmati rice. This is 0 points on the purple plan, and it's fewer points than white rice on the other plans, if I remember right. 2 cups of beef broth. And then seasonings, oregano, salt, basil, pepper. It also calls for 1.5 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese, but you guys know if you've watched my channel that I tend to keep the cheese out of the recipe and I just serve it on the side. That way everybody can sprinkle whatever amount of cheese they want, and that's a really good way to control the smart points on your portion. So I usually use just a 1/2 ounce of cheese, which is plenty for me, and that adds 2 smart points to my plate. So my serving will be 5 smart points total on the purple plan. All right, so I've got my ground beef going in the background. I'm gonna brown that up, and then I'm gonna drain it and toss the onion in with it and let that brown for a little bit. And then I will toss in the rest of the ingredients, the seasonings, the tomatoes, the vegetables, the beef broth, and the rice. Bring it to a boil and then turn it down and let it simmer for a while. Let's see, I think it says, 17 minutes. But with brown rice, I kind of have to adjust the water content a little bit. I'm going to add 1/2 cup more of liquid since my rice is par cooked. It's already partially cooked. But just be careful if you're using brown rice. You might need to add more liquid. You might need to check on it to make sure that it doesn't dry out, and it might need a little more cooking time. But really simple 1-pot recipe. I just brown the beef and the onions and then throw the rest of the ingredients in, let it simmer until the rice is tender, and serve it up with cheese. And I'm also going to make just a side of green beans to go along with this. So I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. I almost forgot to mention, you guys, that this recipe comes from iwashyouDry.com, and I made a couple of adjustments to it, but I'll leave the original recipe linked in the description box below. Okay, you guys, here it is. This is what a serving looks like if it serves 6, and here's my hand for reference. It's pretty hefty serving. I did add 2 Smart Points worth of mozzarella cheese. That's ½ an ounce. And so my little serving here is going to be 5 points altogether since I'm on purple. Like I said, it would be 6 points on blue and 7 points on green before you add cheese. And if you don't think that your kids will like the veggies, you could leave those out. I accidentally left out the mixed vegetables the last time I made this, and it was fine. I'm having mine with some green beans, and when I make green beans on the stove, I just boil them, drain them, and then throw in a couple teaspoons of breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese, like not enough to add any points, garlic, salt, and pepper, and that's it. So that's going to be my dinner tonight. I hope that you find this helpful, and let me know if you think this will work for you, or if you decide to make it how it turns out. But that's been our dinner tonight. Like I said, it's kind of a new favorite around here, but one that is, I think, fairly easy with some really good, just simple ingredients and a lot of good flavor. That's what I have for you guys. I'll check in again very soon. Good night.